Hey guys, Alton here. I want to welcome you back to my YouTube channel and welcome you to our 9th installment of our Linux Fundamental for Ethical Hacking series. So in this video, I'm going to show you from the command line shell some basic networking commands. So some basic things that you should know from a network management perspective. So let's go ahead, let's get started. Let's jump over to my computer screen and let's take a look at some basic Linux networking commands. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get started. And you're going to notice that I have two virtual machines loaded for today's video because I want to run a netdiscover on one machine. And I also want to show you because on one machine I have a wireless USB adapter connected to it and the other one I don't. So I want to make sure I show you the differences in regards to the output for the ifconfig information. So what I want to do in this video is go over just some basic networking stuff in Linux. And what we're going to do is, if you haven't done this, is what I've done on my machines is I've set the adapters to bridge to my actual network rather than do NAT, because I'm going to run what's called a netdiscover on one of the machines, and that's going to scan the network and identify the different systems that are on the network. So on this machine over here on the left that I've been using, what I previously had it on was NAT. I went ahead and switched it over, but you go to machine, you go to settings, you go to network, and you can switch from NAT, network address translation, to a bridged adapter. And this bridges it, so it gives it an IP that your DHCP on your Soho device for your home network will provide you, so you're on the same subnet. And so once you do that, you hit OK. And what you do to get it to reboot the networking service on Linux, let me go ahead and go up through my history of commands. We're going to do a service network-manager restart. And let me just go ahead and run this and show you what will happen. It's going to tell you that's disconnected, and it's going to go ahead and reconnect and start back up in a second. And once that happens, you can go ahead and you can take a look at your IP address to make sure that it's pulling from your home network from the DHCP server. So by default, when you set up a NAT address on VirtualBox, it's going to be a 10 dot something network, and typically for a home network it's going to be a 192.168 type of a network. And so what you can do is there's a couple different commands that you can do. You can do ifconfig, so let's type in what is ifconfig, and this allows you to configure a network interface, but it also prints to the screen your network configuration information. So if I do ifconfig on this device, it's going to show me that I have an ETH0 and an LO. So what do those two different things mean? Well, LO is short for your loopback address, and you'll notice here it says loopback here. And what the loopback is, that's where it's the actual IP address of itself. So if you wanted to test in connectivity of your TCP/IP stack on your actual machine and ping itself, you could ping your loopback address, which is set to 127.0.0.1. And for those of you that have taken networking classes, you also know that the entire 127 range is the loopback range, but this is actually configured for that address here within Linux on a specific configuration file. So if we ping 127.0.0.1, we're pinging our loopback, our own specific address. Now you'll notice up here, this is the one that we wanted to actually look at. We wanted to make sure that this switched to a 192.168.0 network. And I can actually, let me get out of here on this one. So the machine on the right, I'm going to run netdiscover, but I'm going to run the same command. And what you're going to notice is that on this one, and didn't mean to do that, this one has Ethernet. It's on a 192.168.0 network as well. And subnet mask at 255.255.255.0. So we get all the information right here, right? We get our network mask, we get the broadcast address as well, which of course, because it's standard Class C, this is going to be the last address in the Class C network, so the 255. So these are on the same network for the Ethernet. So the ETHO, that's going to be our wired Ethernet connection. So this is a wired connection to the network. And then you're going to notice on the machine on the right, we have WLAN. This is if you have a wireless network. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to show this, because I have a wireless adapter, a USB adapter connected to my machine for wireless ethical hacking. And it shows up on this machine because it's connected to this machine. So if I go to, I believe under devices, USB, it's connected right here. This is that device. So it's connected on here, and it's not connected over here on the machine on the left. So I wanted to show you that. Now, that's the ifconfig. Now, we can also view our IP address information with a different command on Linux, and I want to make sure that I show you that one as well. And it's a very simple command. So there's an IP command. So what is IP? Let me just go ahead and type that in. And this shows you information regarding all sorts, and let's make this full screen, so let's redo that because it truncated it, but it'll show where you can manipulate your routing, your network devices, interfaces, and tunnels, and show your Linux IP version 4 protocol implementation. And so what we can do, and I meant to make this half screen, let me actually slide this like this, and let me make this, there we go. So what I want to do is show the IP address for the system. So we simply type in IP addr, short for address, hit enter, and this is going to give us a similar output as ifconfig, but you're going to notice that the output's a bit different. So for the address down here for the Ethernet, so ETH0 number 2, you're going to notice that, and let me actually show down here and highlight it. Instead of showing the subnet mask, it gives us a CIDR block notation /24, but it still shows the broadcast address, and it also shows our v6, so IPv6 address as well. So if I run IP addr over here as well, again, similar type of output. Now, so that's the IP addr. So that we can use in addition to ifconfig. Now, another different command that I do want to show you, and I'm going to show it on the machine on the right, is the netdiscover command, and I've already gone ahead and typed in the range. We could do it over here. It's not installed by default, I believe, on Kali. I believe you have to install it yourself. This one I haven't installed on, and what I'm telling it to do here is I'm doing the -R to identify a range, and the range for the network is a 192.168.0.0/24, which is a standard class C address. So I'm going to run it over here, press enter to start it, let it run, and over here if we wanted to install it, so we could do the apt-get command, apt-get install netdiscover, and we could actually do an apt cache as well, and it's going to tell us, this is, here it is, netdiscover active/passive network address scanner using ARP requests. So that's what it's doing. It's a network address scanner similar to Nmap. Of course, it's not going to be as full-fledged in terms of functionality as Nmap, but this is going to give us some basic information on our network. So let me clear out the screen. So you could do, and because I didn't run the command, the apt-get didn't save, but we could do an apt-get install netdiscover, and it'll install it. And it looks like mine was already installed, so it ran very quick. So it wasn't upgraded, it wasn't newly installed, it was already on the system as well. So while this is running over here, and it'll scan the entire range, it may take some time, but you're going to notice, so it found a computer, an Asus. This is actually my router, my Soho device. I found a Western Digital, so I have a network attached storage device here. I'm not really sure what this one is. It found my Dell system that I'm on now. I'm not really sure what this one is. These two devices are tablets on my network. This is going to be probably one of our iPhones on the network, and this is going to be one of our Rokus. We have several different Rokus, and one of them is on right now. So this will give you some basic information, right? It's going to give you the IP address because it's doing an ARP command. It's going to give you the MAC address, and it just gives us some basic information regarding it. So I wanted to show you this, and you'll notice this is finished. So this is all that it found. But if I ran this again, I have multiple different computers. If I turned on my iMac, if I turned on a couple of our laptops, if I turned on some of our other smart TVs, and if I woke up my network printer, I mean, it would find all those different devices. This allows us to give us some basic information on the network. It doesn't tell us much, but it gives us some basic information. So I wanted to run this to show you this. So that is the netdiscover command. And if we type in, let's see if it has a manual page. And it does. And so if you wanted to learn more about the netdiscover, you can go into the manual page and learn about all the different switches and so forth. Again, I'm not a pro with it. I just know the basics. I know how to run a scan on a range, and this will give us some basic information. So let's talk about some other things that we can do. We can do an nslookup. We can do a ping as well. So just like with on a PC machine, if you want to ping a system. So let's go ahead and let's ping my router. So 192.168.0.1, we can ping a system and it's going to ping, but unlike on a PC, this is going to continue until you tell it to stop. So I'm going to do Control-C to get out of there to tell it to stop. So we can run a ping command just like you can on a PC. You can do a DNS server lookup as well. So we can do an nslookup. So what is nslookup? So again, a lot of these commands are very similar to what you would do on a PC. So I can do an nslookup for the name server for a different, I could do it for, domain name. I could do it for an Active Directory domain name. Let's do it for a website. Let's do it for my website. So let's do an nslookup for my poker school website, microgrinder.com. And you'll notice that it found the non-authoritative domain name server for microgrinder.com, which is 66.198.240.7. So that's the name server for that. So you can do an nslookup. You can do an IP route. So if you want to take a look at your IP route for your default gateway, you could type in IP route, and it's going to give us the default gateway for our system. And you're going to notice, so I already told you that this is my router. This is going to be my default gateway. It shows you that the default gateway is via that IP address for our Ethernet connection. And it is a 192.168.0.0/24 network. So we can do an IP route to look at that. We could also run a traceroute command as well if we wanted to do that. So if we wanted to look at all the hops, let me clear this out. So what is traceroute? Print the routing packets traced to the network host. So let's trace route to my website, microgrinder.com. And now it's going to trace all the routes until it gets there, and it's going to give you the amount of route hops as well. So we'll just let this run for a little bit, and for the sake of time, we'll go ahead and clear it out because it's not bringing back any information for some of these different ones. But it looks like it must have just continued to run because A2 hosting is my website that hosts it. So I don't know if there's a specific another connection or hop that it needs to do to get to a specific trace route to get to the server for my specific website. But I can see by the time we get here, we're actually within their network, a2webhosting.com. So you could do a trace route. Let's look at some potential other things. We can do a netstat. So let me clear this out so make sure that I'm back on here. Let's do what is netstat. So netstat will print your network connections, your routing tables, your interface statistics, etc. So let's go ahead and let's make this full screen and let's run this again. So interface statistics, masquerade connections, and multicast memberships. So what if we wanted to do some specific things with netstat? What if we wanted to look at everything? We could do netstat -- help, and let's take a look at some of these switches. So if we wanted to display the routing table, we could do -r. If If we wanted to display our interface table, -I. We can do all sorts of different things in here. If we wanted to look at all the sockets that are connected, we could do a -A. There's all sorts of different things that we could do. So let's go ahead and let's play around with this. So let's do a netstat, and let's actually clear this out and bring it to the top. Netstat -A for all. And this is going to show all of the connected interfaces. And let me bring this up to here. So this gives us some basic information here regarding what we're listening on and what we're connected to. Now, what if we wanted to actually drill down a bit further? Let me actually scroll into here and scroll down and clear this. What if we wanted to look at the routing table? So like I said before, netstat-r, right? And here's our routing table, and like I said, our default route is through this network, the 192.168.0.0 network, because that's what we're on. What if we wanted to look at our active TCP connections or active UDP connections? Well, for TCP, it's going to be T. For UDP, it's going to be U. So let's just do TCP. And there are no active TCP connections. So to remedy that, let's go ahead and let's open up our web browser. And let's open up a new tab and let's go to YouTube. And then we'll open up a new tab, we'll go to Reddit, we'll open up another one, we'll go to Twitter, and then we'll minimize this and let's do this again. Now we should have some active TCP connections, and there you go. So this is all through the web browser, through HTTP and HTTPS, what you're seeing over here. Now, I don't believe any of those are going to be for UDP, but we do have some things for my router that are running UDP connection. So as you can see, we can do all sorts of different things. Let's say we wanted to see, what about things that are only listening, not active? So here are the ones that are listening on the different ports. So netstat allows us to do lots of different things. So let's clear out of there and let's see if there's anything else that I missed here that I want to talk about. So we talked about netstat, we did a traceroute, we looked at our default gateway, we looked at our IP address, we looked at a DNS lookup with nslookup, we did a look at ifconfig, we also did our netstat we just did right now. I showed you how to restart your network process, and let's see if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. I don't want to get into the actual files themselves. I guess we can just briefly talk about the host file. So just like on a Windows system, so if we want to assign a specific IP address to a domain name, we can make that static and have it override anything that we would get from a DNS server by simply typing that into our host file. So let me actually concatenate out the etc host file. And what you're going to notice in here is with this, it tells us that if we type in localhost, this is the associated IP address. If we type in Cali, this is the associated IP address. So let's say that I wanted to point somebody to a malicious website. Let's say we stood up our own malicious version of Yelp or Facebook. Well, we could type in that domain name, facebook.com or yelp.com, and type in the IP address of the malicious web server and point that person to that malicious website. That's a way of doing it. You put it into the host file. So that's one of the benefits of the host file in terms of if you're running an ethical hacking campaign and you want to point somebody to a malicious website to run that campaign, an ethical penetration campaign, that's something that you could do. Now, if you had, let's say, for example, within an organization, you had a lot of people going to places like YouTube and Facebook, and you didn't have some sort of proxy server in place, and you just wanted to redirect them to a static file in the system that's an HTML file that says this page is not allowed. Well, you know what? You could set up something like that as well if you had a personal web server set up on the system, or if you just had a web server within your organization and pointed them to that and said you reached out to an unauthorized web page. Don't go there, or just had to go to a blank page. You could do that as well. So there's lots of different things that you can do with a host file, but I just wanted to show you that that's where it's located. It's located in the etc folder under hosts. But yeah, so that's the basic stuff. I mean, let's just kind of talk about since I don't have the notes here, let's just talk about the different things that we looked at. So we looked at the IP command with addr, right? We looked at ifconfig command. We looked at the netstat command. We looked at nslookup. We looked at the ping command. We used the netdiscover discovery tool. What else did we do? Did we do anything else? I'm trying to think. We talked about what the different devices are, right? We said that WLAN means wireless, ETH or etho means you're on a wired network, LO means loopback, and we also I put up here, we also did a traceroute. So we did some basic networking commands here, and it allows you to learn some basic stuff about your network and also do some basic commands and so forth. So hopefully this was beneficial. I know it's just some basic stuff. If you enjoyed it, if you learned from it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Take care. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you guys at future videos. Take care.